I completed the hardest challenge of my Genshin Impact career. A challenge so hard that nobody thought I was capable of doing it. And most of all, I did it without constellations on any 5-star characters or refinements on any 5-star weapons. Let me explain. You see, on June 25th, 2025, Genshin Impact finally released a new endgame mode. This was by far the most challenging content the game had to offer, a place where even some of the most dedicated of players would struggle. This was a vicious combat challenge where one's characters, team compositions, and gameplay are all tested at the highest level we've seen in Genshin Impact. This mode is the Stygian Onslaught. Now, as someone who's been playing the game since its release for almost 5 years now, and just saying that makes me feel old, I was super excited to try it out. After all, I'm someone who's consistently cleared the Spiral Abyss every single rotation, clearing it even using only 4-star characters for basically every single Abyss rotation that I can remember. But boy, was I in for a surprise. Now, what this game mode is a conquest of 3 bosses back to back, with you being forced to use a different team of 4 characters for each boss at the higher difficulty. This mode had 5 different difficulty levels with great rewards, the first 3 difficulties being pretty easy and giving you primo gems, and then difficulty 4 and 5 being a bit harder, as well as offering you an artifact rerolling feather, which is pretty cool. Additionally, there was also a 6th difficulty that you would unlock after completing difficulties 1 through 5, which would offer you a prestigious but time limited, to avoid FOMO, weapon skin for all of your weapons on as many characters as you want, at the cost of being ridiculously hard. In fact, even just difficulty 5 is seen as the quote-unquote last difficulty for a reward that actually benefits your account in a meaningful way, is a challenge that is considered harder than the Spiral Abyss for most players because you need 3 teams and the bosses have high HP amounts that require good builds, good gameplay, and crucially good team building. Even just at difficulty 5, many players are already struggling with this mode, making difficulty 6, also known as the dire difficulty, seem unrealistic without having multiple constellations for each of your characters or being what the community would call a massive whale. To give you an idea of how hard at least the first Stygian Onslaught was, as the exact bosses you're fighting change every 40 days, so at the time I'm recording this there's a new rotation which I might make a future video on, but I digress. For the first Stygian Onslaught, within the first few days of it being released, there were only 2 or 3 publicly uploaded full clears of the 6th difficulty that featured 5-star characters without constellations, so C0 characters. Now, while there may be more than this done either privately or uploaded on different websites such as BiliBili or somewhere else, the point is that accomplishing this task without having constellations on your 5-star characters was incredibly uncommon. While many people could clear 1 of the 3 bosses or maybe even 2, clearing all 3 with 5-star characters that were not constellated was very rare. While you may be thinking, Ziox, isn't this just a mode for whales? What's wrong with constellations? Well, nothing, but personally I've always felt like Genshin Impact was a game where constellations on 5-star characters were a luxury that wasn't needed. It's nice to get constellations for a character you like if you want it, and it can certainly be incredibly powerful. As far as getting all the rewards goes, I've always advocated that it's never really something you should feel like you're forced to get in order to clear the hardest content. The hardest content prior to the Stygian Onslaught, the Spiral Abyss, has always been clearable with good unconstellated 5-star characters, good C0 teams, and even with 4-star characters as I mentioned previously. Outside of that, even the Stygian Onslaught difficulty 5, which is the last difficulty that actually gives you a meaningful reward, is more than clearable without constellations on 5-star characters. And so while the 5th difficulty was doable for quote-unquote C0R1 or 5-star characters without constellations and without refinements on their 5-star weapons, and the 6th difficulty seemed like more of a mode for people who wished a bit more and maybe had constellations, I chose to embark on a journey. I attempted to clear the dire difficulty, so the 6th and hardest one, using only C0 limited 5-star characters. This means no constellations on the 5-star characters I'm using. Obviously 4-star characters constellations are allowed, and keep in mind though that my personal account is also missing quite a few characters' signature weapons because I don't pull on every weapon banner.
Oh! I thought it was this.
Oh, and a bonus if I can do it using characters that I like. This is something that truthfully I didn't believe I could do, but this is how I did it. To give you guys a better idea of what this challenge actually entails, here's a quick rundown of the Stygian Onslaught. The Stygian Onslaught has 3 bosses, with the exact lineup changing every 40 or so days. The first rotation had 3 very scary enemies: the Hydro Tulpa, the Lava Dragon Statue, and the Secret Source Automaton. Each of these 3 enemies required you to build a specific team around their weaknesses, and while the Secret Source Automaton was a bit more of a character check, basically asking you, hey, do you have Skirt or Escoffier, the other 2 had more room for skill expression. Firstly, there was the Hydro Tulpa. Even at just difficulty 5, this boss proved to be very challenging for many, as he had a lot of HP. I'm talking over 7.6 million HP. Thankfully though, as you may be able to guess by the fact that the Hydro Tulpa is made of water, he is always affected by Hydro, meaning that you can reliably trigger many useful reactions against him, such as Vaporize or Hyper Bloom, but we'll get to the strategies a bit later. Outside of just that though, he would also summon like baby Tulpas that had to be dealt with in time, either by applying the correct element to them or by brute forcing them with sheer damage before the Hydro Tulpa would absorb them, get stronger, and heal himself by an ungodly amount, something you wanted to avoid at all costs.
How does he keep getting big, bro? Stop getting big!
Outside of that, he also had a special attack where he'd for some reason stop taking damage and get a special shield that you'd have to break. Thankfully, the Tulpa reset your cooldowns and refunded your energy when he did this. Even despite that, the shield was incredibly tanky and required a specific rotation and basically knowing and predicting when it's gonna happen to have a chance at beating it, especially for the dire difficulty. Now, while the shield was still annoying but mostly manageable at difficulty 5, for the dire difficulty, it would genuinely make or break your run, as most teams, even when played optimally, wouldn't have enough damage to even break the shield, let alone defeat the Tulpa in time. Oh, and speaking about time, let's talk about 2 other annoyances of this game mode that made it more challenging. Firstly, defeating the enemies wasn't enough. You had to do it within 2 minutes or your run would be a failure. This game mode also made you start with no energy, which was really annoying. Having no energy meant you needed to either build a ton of energy recharge, use a bunch of Favonius weapons on your supports, which generate energy when you land a critical hit for your entire team, or just do a full rotation at the start without your burst, which is just one additional annoyance they added to make these bosses harder. Next up was the Lava Dragon Statue, a fight that in my opinion was the best designed by far. I first fought this enemy in the overworld. I actually found it very annoying. In a game mode like this, where you actually have to optimize everything you're doing, I learned to really like the design of this boss for one simple reason. In fact, while the Hydro Tulpa mostly felt like an HP sponge, and the next boss we'll talk about felt more like a character check, the Lava Dragon Statue had a lot of cool mechanics that left room for innovation and creative team building. Many characters that were otherwise considered weak could be very strong here because they were very efficient at dealing with the Lava Dragon Statue's unique Pyro Shield. First was its Geo-Human phase, where it had 70% resistance to every element, meaning that your damage was not going to be great. Once you applied enough pyro to it, its unique pyro meter would build up, and when it was filled, it will transform into its second phase, where its resistances would be lowered to a whopping minus 30% to every element except pyro. What this meant is that dealing with this pyro meter, pyro shield, pyro bar, whatever you want to call it, filling up the gauge of pyro as fast as you could would be crucial in actually being able to deal damage to this boss. While the boss would attack you in its first 2 phases and still had high pyro resistance, if you kept applying pyro, you would get to the 3rd phase of this boss, where it would go to a whopping minus 60% resistance for every single element, including pyro. This meant that if you're playing a pyro damage dealer, they would be efficient at doing good damage to this enemy in the 3rd phase, whereas if you're playing a damage dealer of any other element, they would be efficient, yes, in the 3rd phase, but also during the 2nd phase. Outside of that, hydro or cryo attacks you do would ruin the speed at which the pyro gauge you're trying to fill up will actually fill up, meaning that hydro and cryo characters were actively harming you instead of helping you. Now, while this may seem confusing, basically you just needed to apply a lot of pyro and deal a bunch of damage during its 2nd and 3rd phase, or just its 3rd phase if you're playing a pyro damage dealer. While it was annoying to me before I properly learned the mechanics, was one that felt rewarding and had by far the most varied teams capable of clearing the dire difficulty, even with just C0 5 stars. Because of the fact that so many different characters could do it if played well, and so many off-meta picks were actually incredibly powerful here, like even a certain free 4-star that we'll see later, and no, I'm not talking about Shangling. This was a great boss design in my opinion. Last and arguably least was the Cryo Automaton. While the Cryo Automaton wasn't as frustrating for me as the Hydro Tulpa, which caused me nightmares,
Leave me alone!
The Cryo-Automaton was my least favorite design boss, not because it's too difficult, but because it was almost entirely a character check. This is because the secret source automaton or Cryo-Automaton had incredibly high resistances, a whopping 210% for a vast majority of the fight if you did not apply enough cryo. In fact, you needed to apply enough cryo to keep its little cryo gauge thing between 0 and 10 of its maximum 135 points of flow momentum, whatever the hell that is. This boss didn't require you to do a specific amount of cryo damage, but rather apply as much cryo as you could, meaning that for the earlier difficulties, and even difficulty 5 to some extent, you could get away with fast cryo appliers and even damage dealers from another element, although typically it would be a lot easier if you just had a good cryo damage dealer. This boss was very clearly designed for Skirk and Escoffia's release, a boss that I think is there to just promote them and their banners. And while for difficulty 5 I saw people clearing with other cryo carries like Ayaka or Risley, and I even saw some crazy talented people clear on BiliBili with either 4-star units or Hyperbloom with a cryo on fielder, namely Ayaka. For the most part, it basically was just a test of your strongest cryo team. For difficulty 6, it was shameless in that regard, as for C0, there was really just one option, and if you had a good Skirk and Escoffia like I did, this boss was, spoiler alert, a lot easier than expected, which is why I personally was not a big fan of it and called it more of a team check than a skill check. Outside of just the specific bosses though, something to point out about the 6th difficulty is that the HP of the bosses virtually doubled. The Hydro Tulpa more than doubled, going from 7.6 million HP to over 17 million, which is a crazy amount to do in just 2 minutes, by the way, with the Lava Dragon statue going from 5.6 million to 11 million, and the Cryo-Automaton going from 7.6 to almost 15 million. This meant that in order to clear the dire difficulty with C0 5-stars, you needed flawless teams, builds, and gameplay. Oh, and also I wanted to mention that you could do the bosses in any order for this specific content. And so on day 1, excited to try out the new mode that just came out, I chose to test my skills and see how far I could go. As someone who plays this game for a living, I naturally breezed through the early difficulties and unlocked difficulty 5 immediately. This one I attempted using my strongest standard teams, firstly using a pyro-focused team against the Hydro Tulpa of Arlecchino, Xiangling, Bennett, and Sitlali. I had both Arlecchino and Xiangling do tons of pyro damage, with Sitlali being there to reduce the pyro resistance of the Hydro Tulpa. My team was far from optimized, but because my builds were already good and I knew what I was doing, I cleared the Hydro Tulpa without too much difficulty. Next up was the Lava Dragon statue, against which I used a Kenichi team with Mavuika, Yansan, and Emily. While truthfully at the time I didn't fully understand how the boss worked and my Kenichi's gameplay was not perfect, I'd say it still went okay. Oh, 275k. Oh, wee. Wait, why is my damage lower now? Okay, Yansan expired, I think. 102, I could do better! With the Lava Dragon statue done, there was only the Cryo Source Automaton left, to which I played the most standard Skirk team, pairing her with Escoffi, Farina, and Shenhe. Naturally, having the perfect team for this boss, I managed to clear it without any struggle at all, clearing the boss with around 45 seconds to spare. Now, having cleared all of difficulty 5 in my first attempt, I was genuinely surprised. I think we try to push to 6, bro, because I can. Like, look at me. If anyone can, it's me. And thought that nothing could stop me. I was at the top of the world, and I won't let the dire difficulty get in my way. And so I mustered up my courage and my best teams and challenged the dire difficulty. The first boss I chose to fight was the Cryo-Automaton, and I went into this boss confidently. Obviously, as I'm sure you can tell, I wouldn't be making such a big and passionate video if I just breezed through the 6th difficulty easily, so I'm sure you're expecting my confident attitude to be stolen away from me any second now. With that said, this is how my first attempt of the 6th dire difficulty against the first boss that I chose went. Like, I do this to get some energy, right? Then we swap. Trigger a Fab. Trigger a Fab. Oh, what's wrong, Fab? You're As you can see, I was in a goofy mood, and rightfully so. I mean, I cleared Fearless on my first try. Oh, I should have held E, not tap. It's fine. No, this isn't. No, this is fucked. It's still too cryoed. You have the normal attack. You can't burst. Okay, I got it. But here I messed up the enemy mechanic though, had to reset, and then for my real first try, because I'm not gonna count that last one, it was only like 10 seconds. Oh, and in case it wasn't obvious, basically no one in chat believed that I could do it, so I was determined to prove everyone wrong. Charge attack. Dash cancel. My wrist hurts. Wait, this is like doable. Good dodge! I get it. I get my burst in time. Please! First try! Wait, does that count? I think we got it. Yep, we got it. On my first try, or technically second if you count the reset, I managed to clear the first boss that I challenged, the Cryo Secret Source Automaton, with the first team that I tried, comprised of a C0 Skirk, C0 Farina, C0 Escoffier, and C0 Shenhe. Also, while this boss was pretty straightforward, I still think I should briefly go over my team's builds. In case you were wondering, I put my Skirk on her signature artifact set with her signature weapon. Escoffier also had her signature and the Golden Troop artifact set. Farina, I actually ran a purely supportive build of Favonia's Sword and Tenacity the Millith, which yes, makes her lose out on damage, but buffs her team significantly, which ended up being worth it. And lastly, Shenhe was on a Favonia's Lance and Noblesse Oblige. So pretty standard stuff. And with that, I cleared the dire difficulty on my first try without having to think too much. Now, this warped my perception of what dire was. At this point, I felt confident. I thought I was at the top of the world and nothing could stop me. I thought this would be a breeze. However, this is the part of the story where things go wrong. And so courageously, I entered the next boss challenge, which was the Lava Dragon statue. For this boss, I started by using a team of Kaniche, Mavuika, Emily, and Yansan. Now, normally in a team like this, Bennett would be used because of how broken he is, but I knew that I needed Bennett for the Hydro Tulpa, which led me to exclude him from the Kaniche team, which is also the reason why I ended up excluding Mavuika from this team as well later, as you can't reuse any characters across the different bosses. This means that Bennett, a super top tier support, can only be used one time for one of the 3 bosses of this challenge. For those reasons, this is the team I went with, and honestly, it was not enough. Okay, maybe I could have gotten one more E, but it's okay. I'm locked in. This might be cooked. Bro, we're so fucking close though. We're so close. It's so doable. You didn't crit? Maybe, bro, but I'm gonna shit. After a few failed attempts, I noticed that my Mavuika's on the wrong build, being on an Elemental Mastery Sands, which is useless here. Your Mavuika's on an EM Sands. It's fucked because I know you're right. It's fucked because I know you're right. Like, that's the fucked up part, is I know you're telling the truth. Okay. Okay, my Emily was cooked. My Emily was cooked. And so I proceed to optimizing my builds. Afterwards, I end up being very close to the point where I feel like it's definitely doable. No, I coped. No, bro, but it is doable. Like, I have to play perfect. But there's only one problem. Even if I did manage to optimize this run and clear the Lava Dragon statue, that doesn't change the fact that I'd have to face the Hydro Tulpa afterwards in order to clear the dire difficulty. And I knew that this big water monster would be the most difficult of the 3 bosses, so I wanted to at least try and see if it was possible. I used a team featuring my favorite pyro carry of all time, Arlecchino. I paired her with Bennett and Sitlali for some buffs, and Shangling as the last slot for more vaporized damage against the boss. Hello? What is he sucking? Bro, what is he even sucking? However, I quickly realized that I couldn't do it, at least for now. Okay, yeah, that's fun. That's fun, I think. Do I have to kill these guys or no? Like, bro, it's impossible! Oh, she's dead. I couldn't even get past the Hydro Tulpa's shield. You see, every clear I had seen thus far had featured Mavuika on an incredible build. Better artifacts than mine, and even using weapons that I did not have. I didn't have Mavuika's signature, or even Sitlali's, although that one is less needed, but more on that later. And even every Arlecchino clear at this point that I had seen had constellations active. So I really wasn't sure if the Hydro Tulpa was even clearable for me, and I viewed it as an unsurmountable task unless I had some massive innovation. With that said, before thinking about that, I wanted wanted to at least try and clear the lava dragon to make some progress because I really felt like it was possible. Okay, well, I think we can do the second one. I think we can do the lava dragon. I don't know how, but I think the lava dragon's doable. And so I started thinking about this lava dragon again. Firstly, for this boss, I knew that I had a few choices. I could use electro carries such as Veressa or Clarin. While my Clarin's build was amazing, my Veressa's was just okay. I knew that I could even play some other carries like Moalani or even a burning carry like Arlecchino. But not only did I want to save Arlecchino for the Tulpa if I could use her there, even as far as the other carries are concerned like Moalani or the electro ones, while they could work, not only were my builds a bit less optimized than my Knight, but I also just really like him and think he's a fun and cool character that I've spent a lot of time playing and that I also just want to clear with. I also felt like it was definitely doable with my Knight, so I wanted to stick to him and do him justice. And so I got back to the Knight drawing board and made some pretty cool discoveries. My first revelation was Amber. Now you might be thinking, why Amber? Amber's a free character that's been around since the start of the game, a 4-star that just gets handed to you. She's a character who hasn't had much popularity. In every single Spiral Abyss rotation, she's consistently one of the least popular units and is widely regarded to be one of the weaker ones. This is because she doesn't have amazing uptime on her abilities, nor does she have the highest damage or buffs, and is usually replaceable with a better and stronger character. Now, truthfully, there has been one niche usage of her in the past, namely if you have the Elegy of the End Bow, being able to apply pyro for another pyro carry like Shoutout, enabling your Anemo support to swirl that pyro and reduce the resistance of whatever you're fighting through the Verdescent Venerer set. But this was pretty niche and a bit higher level, which is cool, but still didn't make her popular. Outside of that one niche case though, Amber has largely been ignored and forgotten. However, one thing Amber has going for her is her ability to do an incredibly high amount of pyro hits in a short period of time. In fact, while Amber's burst only lasts for 2 seconds, which is incredibly short compared to another 4-star like Xiangling, whose burst lasts for 14 seconds with her 4th constellation, what Amber's burst has going for it is that it hits 18 times in this short window. And while there is an ICD or internal cooldown of how fast this ability can apply pyro, because it hits so many times, even though not every single hit will apply pyro, a lot of them do, and that's more than enough to make her incredible here. For once, the fact that she doesn't do a lot of damage or doesn't have good, consistent, like off-field pyro application doesn't really matter, as the burst of very fast pyro in a short window of time is kind of exactly what you need for this boss. Being able to get rid of the boss's shield, where it takes virtually no damage anyways, is incredibly valuable and makes Amber a very valuable character here. Honestly, while a lot of people have thought of and used Amber here, this is a discovery that I made kind of randomly on my own that I'm pretty proud of, as remembering an old character that is otherwise neglected always feels good. Even other characters like Klee were popularized for this boss, which is one of the reasons why I like this boss, as it allows for some creative team building.
I mean, I think I still get my burst now. Yeah. Just need a 1 dendro particle. Still have the pyro. Okay, this is good. This is really good. We got every buff. Oh, I tried to get an extra thing in. I mean, it's, I don't know, maybe. If everything's perfect, maybe.
Now, after a bit of testing, I did conclude that Amber was in fact amazing at breaking the shield.
Fab, please, please. And it's so hard. It's so hard. Where was it going? Like where? Like, please, someone tell me where. I don't know.
Although even with her, I couldn't quite make it.
Oh yeah, I don't even get energy here. Damn, no, this might be too hard. Okay. Maybe it is Bennett.
Now at this point, I'd been live for over 6.5 hours straight and wanted to just complete this boss. So even though I probably needed him for the Hydro Tulpa, I put Bennett in my team and did some more attempts. And very shortly after, this happened.
Wait! Bro, die, you stupid.
I was one sliver off, but on the very next run, I managed to clear it.
There's a will, there's a way. Wait. Okay, I mean, whatever. I'll take it for now. Oh, I'm not even that happy because I know I'm gonna have to redo this. Like, I'm gonna have to use Bennett first half.
And so I did it. Kind of. I cleared the second boss, but at the cost of using Bennett, and I really had no faith in my ability to clear the Hydro Tulpa. After this, I gave up on my dreams of clearing the Dire Onslaught as I couldn't bear to spend more of my time on this game mode, especially as I had to fly to Anime Expo, which was happening in a few days, keeping me away from Genshin for a short while. I got back home and had an epiphany. 2 weeks and one haircut since my last attempt, and I was ready. You see, during my trip, a video by someone called Oskos, I hope that's how you pronounce it, uploaded a clear of their C0 R1 Arlecchino, defeating the Dire Hydro Tulpa. Now, while this particular player couldn't quite complete all 3 bosses back to back, the fact that they could clear the Hydro Tulpa with a C0 Arlecchino was impressive, and it was all I needed to know that I could get the skin. Upon further investigation, however, I found a few problems. Not only was this Arlecchino build quite a bit better than mine, but also that this Arlecchino team features Mavuika as well as her signature weapon. And while she's being played as a quote-unquote sub DPS or burst support in this team, she still contributes significantly to the team's overall damage. And on top of this, the creator themselves even wrote in the replies that without Mavuika's signature weapon, they would not be able to do it. And in fact, the difference between her signature weapon and my best available option is around 20%. And because of this, and just how close the clear time of this player was, I had my doubts of it being possible, but nevertheless, it did spark a fuse in me. Secretly, after my stream, I tried for hours to see if my Arlecchino could clear the Dire difficulty, and I tried everything. Firstly, I gave my Arlecchino her best artifact set, the Fragment of Harmonic Whimsy, which I had a pretty good build for. I also have Arlecchino's signature weapon, which is nice, and so I started my team building there. Next, I knew that I obviously needed Bennett for his incredible attack buffs, and so I put him on my team with the Noblesse Oblige artifact set and as much energy recharge as humanly possible. I equipped him with a weapon that had a 674 base attack to get the highest possible buff from his burst, although after a bit of testing, I ended up changing this weapon to the Freedom Sworn instead for a bit of extra buffs. Next up, I knew that I needed a support slot that could deal with the baby Tulpas efficiently. You see, unless you could somehow just brute force these little Hydro Gremlins that have over 2.5 million HP each, a support with the correct elemental type was required. Pyro was not efficient at breaking the shields, but Cryo would one-shot these annoyances, and Dendro, while slower, could work as well. While I knew that the answer was probably just Sitlali, before I committed to this, I wanted to at least explore my options. And so for the third slot, I considered both Sitlali and Nahida. Both of these characters could wield the Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers and the Instructor set for 48% attack to one character and 120 elemental mastery as well. Nahida would also provide more elemental mastery through her burst, as well as some bonus damage through the Burgeon reaction. Although burgeoning did prove to be dangerous, as Arlecchino's a character that can't be healed in combat, and Burgeon does some damage to your own character as well, making it naturally very tricky. Sitlali, however, would offer 20% pyro resistance shred, which is incredibly valuable, on top of giving you a shield that helps Arlecchino stay alive. Naturally, I found Sitlali to be much more efficient and comfy, as she's also a character who doesn't need a lot of field time at all, simply just using her skill to get that shield and apply cryo to defeat the Tulpas and buff your team. A few key things to note though are that 1. I could not run Sitlali's best artifact set, the Scroll of the Hero of Cinder City. This is because the Hydro Tulpa was always affected by Hydro, meaning that I couldn't get a pyro cryo reaction on Sitlali, which is something you need to trigger the scroll set and give your team some additional pyro damage bonus. For those reasons, I chose to stick with the Instructor set instead for some elemental mastery. Secondly, I didn't have Sitlali's signature, which would be better at efficiently buffing both Arlecchino as well as my second DPS in the team. This would also be a seamless natural buff without having to worry about who to swap into, which is the case for the Thrilling Tales. However, as far as signature weapons go, this one was really not needed, and I didn't want to spend extra Primo Gems getting it when I had a perfectly viable and strong 3-star catalyst, the Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers. Now, if you're new to Genshin Impact, you may see a 3-star weapon and assume that it's terrible, but in reality, this weapon is one of the most broken supportive weapons in the game. The 48% attack buff you get is massive, provided you can maintain good uptime on the effect. In practice, it is going to be a bit annoying to use, as you'd have to make sure you always swap into Arlecchino directly after Sitlali, and the buff's uptime isn't 100%, but it's still a lot of attack, even on average, which makes it not as good as Sitlali's signature, but definitely good enough to be a very strong option and save me the Primo Gems of having to pull for a 5-star weapon that I don't want. And so with that, I had the core of my team locked in. Now, note that here I did also briefly consider a Chevreuse Overload team that I thought could have worked, but I would have had to brute force the baby Tulpas, as I wouldn't have enough elemental application to take care of them. That felt ambitious to say the least, so I did opt to stick to my original plan. With that said, I want to add that after I ended up clearing, like days or weeks later, I did find a crazy Overload Arlecchino clear on BiliBili, but I think this was the case of a player being really talented, really precise, and probably going through an unfathomable amount of retries that I don't think would be replicable by a mere mortal like me. With that said, I hadn't seen this clear at the time, or I'm sure I would have attempted it non-stop, but either way, I think the most realistic team would be to run Arlecchino with Sitlali and Bennett. Now finally, for the last slot of my team, there were 2 options, but really only one true answer, and it was between Mavuika or Xiangling. Now while the answer here may seem obvious, just go Mavuika, because the Hydro Tulpa's mechanic fully reset all of your cooldowns and refunded your energy when its shield would go up, it allowed Xiangling to have 2 Pyronados out at once, which was the most efficient way for me to break the shield easily, as Xiangling could consistently vaporize the Hydro Tulpa with both of her Pyronados, adding a ton of damage to the team. The easy shield break made her addition to the team very appealing to me, although it still was not enough DPS overall, even with a super optimized Xiangling build. And so, while I had a lot of fun with her, I had to accept the one truth I had been rejecting for so long: Mavuika. Now, while I wanted Arlecchino to shine, and I said I'd use my favorite characters, if that's realistically possible, sorry Xiao, and if I add the best DPS in the game to my team, is it really one of my favorite characters, Arlecchino, who's going to be shining? Well, yes. You see, while Mavuika does a lot of damage, the team will still focus on Arlecchino. The Hydro Tulpa resetting your cooldowns allowed you to sort of cheat some extra Bond of Life, making Arlecchino's damage much higher here than it would be kind of on average. Having more Bond of Life and getting a free cooldown reset of Arlecchino's elemental skill meant that if you timed your rotations properly and lined it up to where you had max Bond of Life and used your skill as soon as the Hydro Tulpa got his shield, you would be able to use your skill again and effectively get more Bond of Life, which, if you know nothing about Arlecchino, translates to more damage. Outside of that, Mavuika also is a character who not only is a broken DPS, but also has really good supportive capabilities. And I even gave her a supportive artifact set. Mavuika being from Natlan means that she can run the scroll set instead of her standard Obsidian Codex DPS set. Since Mavuika, unlike Sitlali, could trigger a pyro reaction against the Hydro Tulpa, this meant that she would buff the pyro damage of my entire team. This would not only buff her own damage, but would also, crucially, buff my Arlecchino. Outside of that, after Mavuika uses her burst, which again will be really strong because it will be triggering the vaporize reaction against the Hydro Tulpa, on top of also being buffed by Bennett and Sitlali, Mavuika also provides a damage bonus to your active character after using your burst, up to a maximum of 40%. Outside of that, if I'm just using Mavuika's skill and burst, I won't need to spend a lot of time on her, so she basically acts as a Xiangling who will do damage but will also buff my Arlecchino and really have a supportive role as well. This was one way to keep Arlecchino in the forefront of the team that I was building while still making it as optimal as possible. Now, truthfully, I have hid some things from you. Firstly, while I may be able to clear with just Mavuika as a main DPS, which was kind of the standard for the dire mode, this would have been incredibly difficult. Not only have very few people cleared it, but also every clear I had seen either had C6 Yansan, Sitlali's signature, or at the very least Mavuika's signature. And while the meta eventually developed to clearing with some time saved by even potentially brute forcing the baby babies and removing Sitlali from the team. I did believe that if I optimized my Mavuika build enough, spent some more resin, and maybe got an upgrade like C6 Yansan, which I didn't have, Mavuika's signature, or something like maybe a miracle gameplay wise, I could clear with Mavuika as a main DPS. But that's not what I was here for. As I said, I really like Arlecchino and I would do anything for father, and so I was not going to give up on her. I wanted to stick to Arlecchino as a main DPS, and with Mavuika as a sub DPS or support, not only was I able to fulfill my desire of using my favorite pyro DPS, but I also got to play a really strong team that let Arlecchino shine, and that given my builds could even be the best option for my account as a whole. And so I was happy with this team and I went to test it out. With my newfound motivation and my newly improved Arlecchino team, I entered the Stygian Onslaught once again. Unfortunately though, it was rough. While I finally managed to break through the Tulpa's shield with my Arlecchino and Mavuika team, which previously I could only do if I ran Shangling and double Pyronadoed, achieving this now by just playing the game better, I ran out of time with a lot of HP left on the bot. I kept resetting, hoping something would change, but to no avail. It felt hopeless. No matter what I did, I just couldn't do enough damage. Was this the end of my Onslaught journey, and did I really have to give up on Arlecchino? Confused and saddened, I went to bed, and the next day I booted up my live stream to try and get a better Arlecchino build. I knew that while I may need to upgrade my Mavuika as well, my Arlecchino artifacts just aren't cutting it. In fact, my Arlecchino build, while it was solid, would only rank as a top 5.3% build on Akasha, a website that just serves as a pseudo artifact leaderboard, whereas the only Caesar Arlecchino that I had seen actually clear this content had a top 0.048% build. For reference, they were ranked 306 and I was ranked 40,346. And so I did a quick trip to the artifact strongbox with the hopes of improving my Arlecchino's artifact. For those of you who are unaware, the strongbox is a place where you can turn useless artifacts into new ones that are often just as useless, but they're new and randomly generated, so they have a chance of being amazing. You can select one of many artifact sets and transform bad 5-star pieces of any single set into new ones of this set that you choose. Now, luckily for me, Arlecchino's best in slot artifact set, the Fragment of Harmonic Whimsy, was added to the strongbox fairly recently. Because of this, I spent nearly a full inventory of 5-star pieces that I had saved up by farming domains for all of my other characters, mainly just Xiao, but still, into the strongbox to try and upgrade my Arlecchino. I did actually make a separate video of this process that you can feel free to check out if you're interested, but as a recap, I did end up getting some pretty cool pieces. After this session, my Arlecchino did improve, but honestly, not by that much. I went from a top 5% build to a top 3.5%, which, yes, is a slight DPS increase, but I didn't believe it to be enough. I really had hoped for more, and I ended my live stream feeling, honestly, a bit sad and empty. I took this new build to face the Hydro Tulpa, only to fail again and again.
I didn't crit a single fucking Mavuika burst.
Was this really the end of my journey? At this point, it was the middle of the night, or truthfully, it was actually the next morning. 6 a.m. came around and I was still awake, unsure of what to do. But then it hit me. You see, for years now, I've preached that stats on artifacts are oftentimes more important than the artifact set bonus. While this doesn't mean that you shouldn't run any artifact set bonuses, it does mean that alternative artifact sets can be better for your build than the quote-unquote best in slot set for a specific character if the stats on your alternative artifacts are better. And while Whimsy is Arlecchino's best in slot set by about 5 to 10%, you can potentially get a lot more than this 5 to 10% if, say, your artifacts on another set were perfect. And so I considered her second best option, Gladiator's Finale. And while my Gladiator set is good, slightly better than my Whimsy set, it isn't anywhere near perfect. While I do have 2 artifacts that I deem incredible, namely a great Pyro Goblet and a solid Flower, the rest of my build is good, but not amazing. With this new build, my Arlecchino does still almost as much as before, and no progress is made. Now you see, Whimsy and Glad are the 2 only sets that people really ever only consider on Arlecchino, as they are her 2 best options overall. Additionally, I spent so much resin and so many artifacts improving my Whimsy build and even getting Gladiator pieces from kind of killing bosses for like 5 years now. There really isn't another option other than Whimsy or Gladiator. right? And that is when it hit me. An idea so crazy that it couldn't possibly be true. Something so sinister that even saying it out loud felt dangerous. Vermillion Hereafter. You see, there is one domain that I have farmed for 3 years straight. One domain that I lived in since its release in March 2022, a domain that was home to 2 artifact sets. Echoes of an Offering, which I used on Ayato, and Vermillion Hereafter, which was Xiao's signature set, and is best in slot until, well, just a few patches ago, but I don't want to talk about it. Now, as someone who's loved Xiao since even before his release, and as the self-proclaimed most dedicated Xiao main, I've never stopped farming for Xiao's artifacts. Even on his release day, I already had an incredible 2-piece build for him, and then when they released his new set, Vermillion Hereafter, well, I just started farming. And I never really stopped until Long Night's Oath came out, and then I moved to the new domain. And while I'll make a full video on my Xiao's journey, and please let me know if you're interested in seeing that and enjoy this video format, what you need to know is that I spent well over 100,000 resin in this one domain, on top of also strongboxing it incessantly. Now, while as I said, I've spent probably a lot more than 100,000, to give you some context here, 100,000 resin, if I were to use that on Mora ley lines, would be well over 300 million Mora, but instead of that, I chose to be completely broke on Mora and rich in a very niche artifact set. And so I truly have spent years of my life in this one place, and while both of the sets available in this domain are widely regarded as suboptimal for your account, and they genuinely often are, there is one saving grace: the 2-piece. You see, both Vermillion and Echoes provide the equipping character with the same buff from their 2-piece set effects, 18% attack. Because of this, I've always said, mainly joking, that farming for this domain would mean that any of my characters that scaled with attack, and many do, could run the 2-piece of Vermillion and Echoes, or of any other 2-piece attack set for that matter, with great success, provided that the substats on them are good enough. And while this doesn't make farming these sets efficient, as generally there are better options for your account or specific characters by a long shot, for me, because I spent so much time in this one domain, it meant that I had the most insane artifacts for these sets, especially Vermillion, because I also strongboxed it on top of just farming the domain itself. These artifacts were so insane, in fact, that even though my Whimsy and Gladiator's artifacts honestly already very good, and I mean, look at these pieces, like these Whimsy artifacts I have are pretty impressive, putting my Arlecchino on 2-piece of Vermillion and another attack buffing set was somehow a pretty significant improvement. Now, while I initially expected 2-piece Vermillion and 2-piece Echoes to be the best since I farmed both for so long, 2-piece Vermillion with 2-piece Gladiator actually ended up being better because of the artifacts I had on my account and the fact that I had a really good Pyro Goblet on set on Gladiator that for some reason I didn't have on either Vermillion or Echoes. Seriously though, after all this resin, not having a Pyro Goblet for either Vermillion or Echoes is honestly pretty insane. How rare is it to get good goblets? Anyways, mixing a 2-piece Vermillion and 2-piece Glad made my build noticeably better. This is because my Vermillion pieces in particular were so perfect that being able to run 2 of them and get a set bonus by doing it was huge. My artifacts not only had all of their rolls go into crit, but also had other useful substats like attack and elemental mastery. This meant that every single roll, every single substat was optimized, maximizing artifact RNG because of the sheer amount of artifacts I had to choose from. I basically farmed so much that at some point I was guaranteed to get something good that I ended up using on a character that wasn't Xiao. And so spending years farming for Xiao, going insane in a sad and lonely domain, finally paid off. It all came full circle years later for a character that wasn't even released at the time of me farming. This is what motivated me. When I equipped the build and saw my damage and build ranking go up, I freaked out. This discovery shocked me to my core and I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't fall asleep because of how excited I was, and I knew I had to make it work. Who knew that after struggling for so long, the answer would be Vermillion? Now, how big was the upgrade, you ask? Did it even matter that much? Well, after a bit of rest, I hastily booted up my stream the next morning, and let me show you. Okay, I started with my Arlecchino on Whimsy. We were a top 5.3%, okay, in the world. Okay, rank 40,000. That's where our ranking was. Then I did a bunch of strongboxing, and I've been strongboxing Whimsy since it came out for many patches, okay? It's been many months that all of my excess artifacts, or most of them, goes into Whimsy. It's her best artifact set, right? It's a set that was made for her. For reference, the only Arlecchino that has cleared the Tulpa, to my knowledge, at C0, I looked at their profile, and their Arlecchino's top 0.04%. You know, really good. First of all, I was like, fuck this shit. What if I look at my Arlecchino on Glad, right? A set that I've had since forever. And then she immediately went to top 2.5%. Okay, I kind of optimized my Glad. Already a big upgrade from Whimsy, which I spent like months farming for, but it's okay. That's fine. I was scouring the leaderboards. I started trying some dumb bullshit. And for some reason, my best Arlecchino build is not Whimsy, and it's also not her second best set, which is Gladiator. I found a way to make my Arlecchino top 0.2%. Yes, bro! Top 0.2! Like, I actually was tweaking out of my mind off stream. And I am the best in the world, to my knowledge, of this build. What is it? Now, many years ago, okay, roughly 1,200 days, when Vermillion first came out, I said it's an efficient domain for me. Why? Because the 2-piece Echoes and 2-piece Vermillion both are attack percent, meaning they're good on many characters. Now, was I coping? Yes, but it all comes back to the one truth, okay? It's fucking 2-piece Vermillion, 2-piece Glad, and it's better than my Whimsy. Dude, this build is so good. I ran the optimizer, and it also told me I was right. My Arlecchino's best build, and I'm not kidding, Gladiator, look at these pieces, by the way, okay? Gladiator, this is, let's count the efficient rolls. 1, 2, 3, 4, plus 5, 9 rolls. Like 9 efficient stats. This one, also 9. This one is a 50 crit value sense, and I was looking, so roll value, if you're wondering what that means, it means the amount of efficient stats on your piece. This one is better because you have more effective, useful rolls, because it also has EM and flat attack. However, crit is so valuable that damage-wise, this sense is still better. I did the math. Goblet, and then Circlet. This one looks bad for Shao, right? It rolled EM twice. Ha ha ha. But for Arlecchino, it's perfect. 2 EM rolls, 3 crit rolls, and then it also has the base, like the base stat, and then attack percent as well. It's actually fucking incredible. So my best Arlecchino build is goddamn Vermillion. Like, how? So all my time that I spent strongboxing Whimsy was useless. Complete garbage. I went from number, like, 40,000 in the world to number 1,500. Like, the damage difference is staggering. Our vape combo does 1.7 million damage, 1.72. If we go to like rank 40,000, let's say, we basically went from roughly 1.58 million damage in a rotation to 1.72. Like, that's 200k more damage. It's big, bro. And the Arlecchino we're trying to replicate, the only one that's done it, rank 316, top 0.02% or something, okay? That's in Melt. That's their build in Melt, okay? Top 0.048. However, in Vape, they're 1274, I'm 1590. Our damage is actually close. So it's actually fucking winnable. I think I'm the highest on goddamn 2-piece, bro, in the damn world. Our Arlecchino is better on this garbage than on her true set. Now, with my new build, I was excited to go back and challenge the Hydro Tulpa. Now, the Hydro Tulpa fight has even more mechanics and intricacies than I have explained previously. Obviously, there's a big shield that's annoying to deal with, and this manifests itself in a few ways. Firstly, the Hydro Tulpa summons 2 little babies that you have to deal with. These babies actually can spawn at one of a few different distances from the Tulpa. They can either be really close or surprisingly far, and how close the babies are actually does matter a lot. If the babies are close, you can clear them very easily with Silali's Cryo without having to run around and waste time, whereas if they're far, it's really difficult and often will make you lose out on some DPS, and when every second matters, this really adds up and is incredibly annoying. While I'm not exactly sure of how these spawns work, at first it felt really random. The more I did it, the more I noticed some patterns and ways to kind of force summon the little babies next to me, although admittedly, I didn't really get it down too consistently, but it was enough to make the fight a bit more bearable, but this was just one annoyance I had to deal with. Outside of that, the Hydro Tulpa could just 1 or 2 shot you because he does Hydro damage, and I am playing a character who is oftentimes standing inside of Bennett's field, which applies Pyro to you. This means that the Hydro Tulpa can vaporize you, dealing massive amounts of damage. damage. On top of just that, the little babies will shoot like hydro balls at you that can hit you. And while I am running a healer, Arlecchino is a character that can't be healed in combat except by using her burst, but you don't want to use that as it ends up being a pretty big DPS loss for a C0 Arlecchino in this fight. So your starting HP bar is all you get, meaning that dodging precisely is very important. Outside of that, while Silali does give me a shield, which is nice because my Silali is on a 4-star artifact set, Instructor, and without needing the most investment or anything because the damage increase is negligible and it's mainly just for shield strength, which is convenient but not necessary. Given the situation, I'd have to dodge attacks anyways, so this made it to where Arlecchino's normal attack combo would have to be modified heavily, foregoing an optimal rotation to just make sure you're dodging at the correct times. On top of just that, the shield phase would start at a random time around 1 minute 20 on the timer. The reason it's random is because it's whenever his attack animation ends after the clock hits 120, to my understanding. This means that if he starts a long animation right before 120, the shield could go up a lot later, whereas if he just finished an animation right before 120, then boom, he could just have the shield at that exact spot on the timer right away. Now, the reason this matters is because I kind of had to be ready for the shield phase before it even happened in order to maximize the damage on the shield and actually make sure I had enough DPS to get through it without failing. And a reminder, if you don't clear the shield phase, your active character just gets one shot and there's no way to dodge it even with iframes. This meant that I had to kind of predict when the shield would come up, keep track of his animation, and get ready to do a full rotation and maximize the bond of life that my Arlecchino would get by basically using my skill right before he refunds it back to me. Additionally, the general gist of the team's gameplay is to spam as many normal attacks on Arlecchino to get your skill back as fast as possible because her skill's cooldown goes down with every normal attack hit. Anyways though, with this new build and all of these mechanics in mind that I took a lot of time to practice and master, I managed to get the boss down to a surprisingly low amount of HP.
Perfect frame perfect, perfect frame perfect. Oh, I fucked up. But anyways, you get the point. Like, imagine this, but Mavuika saying GG! GG! Like, that's not bad!
Yeah, I don't really know what I was talking about here, but I was just excited, okay? So please forgive me. Anyways, though, I tested this a lot, even off stream, and the runs that I did made me believe in my victory. It was honestly very close. I was doing a lot more damage than before, and while my gameplay still had some room for optimization, better RNG, and overall a better performance, it felt like I could get the Tulpa down to a very low amount of HP, but no matter how many resets I did, I would never get him lower than this little amount that was left.
Okay, now imagine I don't fuck up. This is so doable. Oh my god, it's so doable!
I needed one last upgrade. I needed an upgrade somewhere in my team, and I already leveled my Mavuika all the way up to 90. I think she was like 88 before. Double crowned her, and also crowned both my Bennett and Arlecchino long ago. And Sitlali, while she could be leveled, didn't give any personal damage to the team, was just there for big buffs and a shield, which didn't depend on her investment. Obviously, the shield strength did, but that's mostly irrelevant. And so I had a choice to make. You see, at the time I was doing all of this, 3 new banners came about: Mavuika, Emily, and their respective weapon banner. While I couldn't really upgrade my builds any further because all of my characters were already kind of as strong as possible, I knew that not having a signature weapon on either Mavuika or Sitlali, especially Mavuika, made things much harder. Additionally, the weapon banner featured both Mavuika and Emily's weapon, 2 weapons that I don't have on my account for 2 characters that I do play, but honestly, I really didn't want Emily's weapon because I felt like it wasn't necessary, and I don't pull for every 5-star weapon. As someone who's not a big fan of weapon banners, I really only get them for characters that I like, or if I feel like the weapon is very valuable and I want it. With that said, I was now left at a crossroad. On one hand, if I got Mavuika's signature weapon, my Mavuika would be about 20 or so % stronger, and that would be enough of a damage increase to potentially, with good gameplay, be able to clear the Hydra Tulpa with Arlecchino, which was my goal. I knew that it would be perfect, but this isn't about Mavuika. It's about Arlecchino and my journey to clearing. Additionally though, Mavuika's signature weapon is just a pretty solid 5-star stat stick claymore that would be good on my account in general, and is also the best in slot weapon for what is widely considered to be the best DPS in the game, so it's definitely a good addition to have that would help out my account. However, on the other hand, it's not a weapon that I needed, and I didn't want to feel pressured to get it. I knew that my account was more than good enough, and all of my characters' builds are generally really good. Even for the Onslaught, I already got every reward possible by clearing difficulty 5, and difficulty 6 is something that changed, so who knows what would come in store in the coming cycles. With that said though, right now I felt like not only was it an optimal upgrade for my account, but it was one that I felt I would use for a long time on a DPS that would last a long time and at the very least be a good support in many teams, and she's also someone I use alongside my favorite characters like Arlecchino and Kniech, so it's something that made sense for me on top of being a solid weapon overall. And so I was tempted. I wasn't going to do it for Mavuika, I was going to do it for Arlecchino. And so to make things more interesting, I set up some specific terms that I had to respect and made a deal with the god of Genshin Impact that I named John Genshin or John Impact. I made a deal, and I made this deal off stream. I'm sorry guys. I'm sorry if this is something you're disappointed in, but I made a deal with John Genshin Impact, founder of Genshin Impact, John Genshin. And John Genshin had some terms. John Genshin said, fine, you can get the weapon. I will give you the weapon, and my 50-50 will be a win. Okay? John Genshin told me this. Now, John Genshin gave me 3 conditions. Okay? This is an official document. Number 1, thou must use Arlecchino as the main DPS for the Hydro Tulpa. That's number 1. Okay, fair enough. Number 2, thou must complete the Stygian Onslaught dire difficulty, else the weapon must be destroyed and returned to me. Oh shit. Now, if I'm being honest, I really don't want to ever destroy a 5-star because it would look bad and people would hate me. So I don't want to do that. So we have to clear, okay? That is his rules. I didn't make these. But if I sign the contract right here, sure. Once I sign this, bro, it's a blood pact. Number 3, thou must make a video out of this. John Genshin loves content. Subscribe. Obviously, it's my account. I can do whatever I want. In my head, I don't want to get a weapon for Mavuika just for this. But if I get it for Arlecchino, for this, and then also for future content where Mavuika is good because she's a broken character that I assume will be good for at least a very long time, given how this game works, at least as of right now, I think it's a good overall investment for my account. Okay, this is me being smart with my Primo Gems. The reason why I usually am not too smart with my Primos is because it doesn't matter for most content. But now that there's harder content, then you don't need to do. Okay, there's an optional amount of, okay, me could be efficient with what I get and what I don't get. Okay, and if I make a deal with John Genshin, then I get a weapon and it's for our queen, our father. So I think, now me personally, I would sign this pact. Good for account, good for Arlecchino, deal with John Genshin. The pact has been signed. And so the deal was simple. I have to use Arlecchino as the main DPS for the Tulpa. I had to also win my 50-50. And 2, I had to clear on the dire difficulty, or else I would be deemed unworthy and I would have to destroy the weapon, which I really didn't want to do. So again, anything for Arlecchino. Okay, we just got... Ah, hell no. What the hell? Okay, we're at 0 pity basically. We're at like 4 pity. Cinematic mode. Burst. F3. John Genshin, we made a deal. I have to win. We made a deal, John Genshin. Do not try this at home, kids, but we're gonna win! Please, bro, please. I need this. I know the weapon banner's a scam. It is. I didn't even get the other one! Now, while this was unlucky, I kept my head up high and was not discouraged. And shortly after, this happened. I am going to like full pity. What the hell is Katrina doing here? I don't even feel anything. This has to be like a double 5-star for me to feel any joy. This made a dent in my Primo Gem savings, but I knew that it was worth it and I had a mission to accomplish. And so I leveled up my weapon, or tried to, and quickly realized that I was broke. I have This is the consequence of farming artifacts all day, but I didn't let this discourage me. I grinded out all the resources I needed and finally leveled up Mavuika's weapon to 90. Then, after making sure all of my builds are complete, I proceeded to rematch the Hydro Tulpa. Now, honestly, this went a lot better than expected. Also, slight immersion break, but if I sound different, it's because I'm recording this a bit later and I got sick, so I'm a bit stuffy. Anyways, though, on my first try of the Hydro Tulpa, I got the boss down to very low HP, and I knew that I could optimize my gameplay and get there. Ah! I pressed 3!
I fucked up. I'm like tilted, but I'm still trying. Oh, I popped my bottom life too early. I could have had a better rotation. Wait, this damage is so much better. What the fuck, bro? That weapon is so broken. Wait, it's so doable. This was a shit rotation. It's doable. That was so... I ulted on Arlecchino.
And so I was hopeful. I kept at it for just over an hour, making sure that everything was perfect. My Arlecchino combos were optimal. My dodges were perfect, as one hit meant I was vaporized and immediately had to retry. My rotation was perfectly lined up. And also, crucially, the luck had to be there. While making sure that the baby spawned close to the Tulpa felt semi-controllable, although sometimes it felt like I was being cheated. The Hydro Tulpa getting its shield at the wrong timing would completely ruin my run, which is something that depended on its attack pattern, which was seemingly random. With that said though, after just a couple attempts, I finally managed to get there and do the unthinkable.
Best shield damage, but good damage on him, so I'll take it. Missed the hit. That was really bad. Let's fucking go!
And finally achieve what I previously thought to be impossible. I was ecstatic. I finally beat the Hydro Tulpa, and honestly, a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. Now, that wasn't it though. As you may remember, I had to go back and re-clear the lava dragon statue because I still couldn't do it without Bennett, as Bennett was needed in my Hydro Tulpa team, and I obviously couldn't use him twice. And so the following day, I got ready to clear the last boss after the Tulpa, which I felt was more doable, but still something that I was scared of. I used my Kenichi Peach and Emily, as well as Amber as always, for the reasons I explained earlier. For my last slot though, while I was debating between Xiangling and Dea, I ended up using Xiangling on a Favonius Lance to generate as much energy as possible and also apply as much pyro as she could through her Pyronado that will constantly be spinning around my Knight. With both Amber and Xiangling, I could break the Lava Dragon statue's shield very fast and allow my Knight to get into the DPS phase as quickly as possible.
I missed the cannon shot. Wait, am I gonna clear first try? Wait, what? Wait, what? I'm not even playing like optimal. I was just, I mean, I guess this one's not the hardest boss, so. Wait, I got it. Unless I throw, which I've been known to do. I'm spinning the wrong way. Oh, I didn't get my E. Well, I threw, but, like, it's good because now there's a storyline.
My first try, similarly to the Hydro Tulpa, went very well. I got the boss to a very low HP amount and knew that if I optimized my gameplay and got lucky, it might just be doable. My dream of achieving the weapon skin might finally be within reach. And so, just a few attempts later, this happened.
Try to have good uptime here. This is the run. I feel it. My bones. I didn't cancel that, but it's fine. We still got the same amount of hits. Whatever. I'm like one particle off sometimes. I should just wait. But it's like I get stressed, you know? I mean, I still think this can damage it actually, kind of like last time. Yeah, it's fine. That was annoying. I didn't get Pyronado. It's okay. Should still have enough time. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, they're all buffed. That's fine. I'm not risking it.
Yes, I finally completed the dire difficulty of the Stygian Onslaught with only C0 5-star characters and R1 5-star weapons. Obviously, I also used some 4-star characters and weapons and even a 3-star weapon, but yeah, C0 R1 clearing dire was something that I really wanted to achieve, but really didn't think was going to be possible. This is something that drove me insane. I lost sleep over it. I kept theorizing on whether or not I could do it, and honestly pushed aside a lot of other videos I knew I should be focusing on, other content I should be doing, easier stuff, or things that may be more quote-unquote worth my time, because I just really enjoyed the challenge. You see, I've always loved Genshin Impact's combat and the elemental reaction system, but never really had a place to properly show it off outside of just the Spiral Abyss, which is not nearly as difficult as the Stygian Onslaught. For those reasons, having a place to actually optimize everything and really bring out the best of my team building and just character building in general, as well as my gameplay, really felt rewarding and was something that I genuinely was looking for. Now, while this game mode isn't perfect, and I've talked about my complaints about it on my second channel, like notably some of the bosses being very quote-unquote shill-y, like you really need certain teams or characters to make it work, as well as some other things that aren't my favorite, like starting with no energy, and even the rewards. I think that while the Primo Gems being early are nice, the limited skin could have some form of revamp, like maybe giving players a currency that is permanent, or even being able to select, say, 3 out of 5 bosses in order for players to be able to get a better matchup for the characters that they have, could help make this a bit less character specific, or even adding like a difficulty between 5 and 6, but once again, I've talked about this in a second channel video already. My point is just, while this mode isn't perfect and there's a lot that I would change, I'm happy to finally have a way to challenge myself that genuinely felt rewarding to clear. Was it worth my time for a skin that will expire in a couple of days and that already is expired by the time you're watching this video? No. But was it worth challenging myself to produce content like this and also just have a good time because I enjoy suffering? Honestly, yeah, I think so. Maybe it wasn't just about the reward or clearing at all, but instead about enjoying the journey to get there. As of right now, 2 other Stygian onslaughts have released since the time of this video, which I've also cleared on Dire, but honestly ended up being easier for me. There is also now another one that just came out, and I'm currently trying to figure out what I'm going to do with it. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this longer type of video. I know it's coming out after the rotation left, but so much work went into this video, not only recording it live, recording the voiceover, but also editing it. I actually only have one editor working on this video, and big projects like this typically have like teams of people. So a big shout out to my goat, and also let me know what you guys think and if you want to see more content like this. It's different from the usual on my channel. It's not as easy to make, so obviously I won't be able to make stuff like this as often, but if it's something that you guys like and it's something that I enjoy, then I might look into it. I really had fun with this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. And what I learned through this journey is that sometimes you need rain in order to bloom.